Every Buddha is enlightened under a tree. None of them were enlightened in a shopping mall, by a used car dealership, all out in nature. At first I thought maybe I'm just a tree hugger, I'm just a hippie. I grew up basically walking around forests, and as a child we lived out in the country, and my parents really loved nature. We did a lot of hiking, but now I realize that the relationship to nature is very, very important, and is described in no uncertain means. The original word for a monastery, of an arama, is the word arama was originally used for kings, like a king's pleasure grove. So it's a place of natural delight, a place where there are flowers and trees and birds and squirrels, and so the Buddha chose that word for the monastery, and that's not a coincidence. So there's this word of ramaniyo, which is delightful. I'm not trying to say that you can't practice if you're in a city, or if there's sound of traffic. In fact, Ajahn Chah, there's something really exceptional about him, in that there's probably about 30 equally famous forest monks of his generation, but none who came anywhere close to attracting the amount of Western disciples. And he couldn't speak a word of English. So what was it? Okay, he was charismatic, but the others were too. But I think he had this ability to use similes from nature that were very easy to understand, that as Westerners we could really appreciate. Whether it's the spider, like in the middle, and it's like the mind, so when a science comes, the spider goes out, catches that fly, but comes back. Do that, be like the spider. He had a very down-to-earth way of teaching that I think was one of the reasons why people found him attractive. Even the word Dhamma or Dharma, one of the translation is nature. So if you want to become a Buddha, see the Dhamma. And one way to say that is understand nature. Now you can take that in a very broad sense, like understand birth and death, understand change. There is, for me, undeniably a therapeutic effect of being out in nature. There's there's an uncomplicatedness or simplicity. You go out into nature, yeah, it's not all pretty. There's predators eating prey, there's fear, there's dangers, and yet there is a harmony, there is an order. Sadly, I think most people don't act until there's a crisis. Like we're very good at being complacent. I think in the question of like pollution, environmental crises, ecosystems collapsing, most of them are due to human actions and through greed, particularly through greed. And so we're just exploitative of nature and natural resources. Again, very, very peculiar, because people say they love their children, their grandchildren, but they don't seem to stop doing silly things so that the world is a nicer place to live for their grandchildren. I don't see much of that. So you should steward the planet. It says that in the Bible, doesn't it? It makes a lot of sense. Probably no one would disagree with it, but how many people actually do it? Again, most of us do look for the sort of path of least resistance and the path of greatest comfort and pleasure, and nature just often just gets in the way and won't put up a fight until often it's too late or it's really critical. So whether it's through deforestation and then creating deserts that then cannot be turned back into forests if ever, or other forms of pollution that are creating great damage, I fear that a lot of time it'll only take these tipping points where people then begin to get frightened before they'll change their habits. sadly. So I don't know if the Buddha could have said anything to alter the course. I mean, he had to deal with all kinds of nonsense during his lifetime, and people doing, trying to kill him, and it's good to have words of encouragement. But sometimes people just have to learn by making mistakes, and I'm actually an optimist at heart in the sense that I do think humanity is going to be around in 500 years. I do think we're going to sort it out, but it might take us some real bumps. So those people who do feel at peace in nature, feel somehow buoyed or feel refreshed, it's not a coincidence, and it can directly help your Dharma practice. In fact, what I would say is if you're having trouble, spend some time in nature and see if that budges, go on a camping trip and just, I mean, it's amazing what these trees do. I mean, they're apparently not conscious, but they're turning carbon dioxide into oxygen and communicating via their roots through kind of fungal networks and speaking to each other, you're sending warning signals when I mean, it's amazing. So there's both a harmony and equilibrium, a peace that gets mirrored, that can help us, I think,